Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are while you're tuning in. If it's your first time joining us, my name's Samuel Buckley. I will be your host. I am your host. And this platform we use to host conversations that highlight the testimony of God, the good stories, the faithfulness of God in people's lives. It's great you're joining us. If you yourself or you know someone who you think should share a testimony, why don't you throw their name in the comment or share this video with them and encourage them to reach out to us, because we will endeavor to get you on an episode in the near future.
Praise the Lord, oh my soul.
Today, we are graced with the presence of the lovely Paris. Paris,
you.
thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How are you? What's happening? And something better than that. Let's try that again. Just wait. Just wait.
Let it brew.
Yeah. How are you? What's God doing? What's new? News.
Oh,
What's news?
I'm good. I'm struggling, but I'm good. I'm good.
Oh,
It's cold.
good.
Man, today has been a struggle, but
It's
been
cold.
I'm good. God's doing a lot and has done a lot, and it's very evident lately, like throughout my whole life. He's just highlighting everything through my life lately that he's just had his hand on. And news is that it's term 3 of internship. There's 6 months to go. I'm so excited. Yeah.
That's good.
We're doing the Bible in 24 hours. So we get to learn about that Bible, which is we're on hour 2 because each chapter is like 1 hour. We're on hour 2 and I read it, and literally the first 2 lines of Genesis 1, verse 1 and 2, there is so much in that. For 3 hours last night, I was like, huh? So I'm very
Chuck
excited.
Missler?
Chuck Missler.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, genius.
Amazing.
Yeah, genius guy, eh?
Absolute genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes you look at it differently. That encourages me to read it again, actually.
It's crazy.
So for the people listening, you started an internship program 6 months ago.
Yes. So I started at the start of the year this year. So God put it on my heart to start internship, and it's all been intentional. And honestly, I didn't know what to expect, but I just said, God, this is my yes, just use me. And he did, and he is. And honestly, Mondays is my cry days. So I'm like, okay, God, let's go. Like, let's rebuild, let's grow. And honestly, the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a big statement.
It is. Hands down, I could be like, if you got commissions for spreading the word of internship, like I would be number 1 making commissions. I am such an advocate for it. Like I want everyone to do it.
Oh, Carrie
It's so
Sharplin is loving this right now, knocking at your door.
Carrie's my favorite, honestly.
Headmaster Carrie, but we don't call her that, do we, Carrie? I don't call you that publicly. That's cool. Well, let's backtrack and then we'll come back to the why of internship, because that's pretty cool. So where are you from? Where were you born?
So I was born in Melbourne. I was born in the St. Vincent's Hospital.
Sounds very
Or that was
Melbourne.
my sister. I don't know which one I was, but
It's not a memory you exactly
it's not a memory.
have.
I remember. I remember that time. But I grew up in Melbourne until I moved to the Gold Coast 5 years ago. So my mom's side of the family is German. My dad's side's Italian, so full European growing up. Amazing.
That's pretty
Very
hectic.
good food. Very good food.
Yeah.
Very blessed my whole childhood.
Very passionate.
Very passionate. Very protective and very family orientated, which growing up, I was like, oh, this sucks. Why are you so protective? And now I'm like, thank you. Like, thank you, Mom and Dad. I wasn't thankful back then, but now I'm like, I'm so thankful.
Yeah. What were some of the like overprotective things that you experienced?
Just whenever I would try to hang out with friends, I'd be too scared to ask because I was like, oh, I got to stay home. I got to be with the family. Or like if I wanted to bring anyone over, which we're a family where anyone could come over.
Yeah.
But anytime it was like someone that my parents didn't know, I was like, oh no, they're not going to like you. Sorry, you can't come
That's
over.
pretty hectic, eh?
Or like, just because I grew up a swimmer as well. So swimming, I was like, as much as I love the sport and I did anything for the sport, and I like made sure that came first with everything growing up. I was too scared to hang out with friends as well. Like if I did really bad at a competition and I hung out with friends the day before, my parents would be like, don't hang out with them again.
No way. It's their fault.
Yeah. Whenever like I would do bad or like not do as well, it was like, well, where were you yesterday? What did you do yesterday? Who were you with? I was like, friends, and we just went and got ice cream.
Yeah,
well,
I was with that auntie I don't like. You're not spending time with her anymore.
But yeah, I find the majority of my childhood though was actually like just so family oriented, like around, okay, we do this as a family, and then you go to school. I never really had a passion for going out with friends, like and hanging out with friends. I was like, I just want to be home. I love my family. I don't ever want to leave this little house. But then I didn't really have many friends growing up. But I mean,
man, pros and cons.
Okay.
I kind of like it, eh?
Yeah.
Move my girls away. I like the sound of it. I like the sound, especially for their teenage years.
But yeah, and then so I started. My family have a huge house back home, and they had a pool, and so they're like, "Well, there's a pool. You've got to learn how to swim." So started swimming lessons, and all of a sudden, I was this amazing swimmer. And at the age of 8, I started competitive swimming, and from then on, I was just like top of the age group, which is so random. Out of nowhere, my dad was an ice hockey player, so he played for the Toronto Maple Leafs for 3 games. So crazy. He also played soccer.
Okay, I'm not a big ice hockey guy. I loved it when I was a kid. Actually, I wanted to be an ice hockey player when I was a kid. I think I watched Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
The Toronto Maple Leafs isn't that like what's the hockey league called?
NHL, so National Hockey League. Yeah.
Your dad played in the NHL.
Yeah. And then he was the coach
the
for the
heck?
St. Michael's hockey team, which is a feeder club into the Toronto Maple Leafs.
What the heck?
It was pretty cool. So when he grew up like half in Italy, half in Sicily, half in Canada. So he went to school and like trained in Canada, but then ran the pizza shop. Typical, we're Italian, we own a pizza shop. A pizza shop called Papa Giuseppe's in Italy. So he'd like bounce between the two. So he has a lot of his uncles in Canada, but then his mum and his sister and everything in Sicily.
What a cool
so he
life.
was born in Footscray in Melbourne, but at the age of 2, 3, moved back up there and didn't come back for a while. Yeah.
So he was born here.
Yeah.
Went back to Italy.
And stayed there.
And then went from Italy to Canada.
I did that for ages, and then came back when he was a teenager, I'm pretty sure. And then the whole family came. Anyway, it was very like broken, but I know that he was like very much in Canada and Sicily majority of his life.
Man, what a life.
I know.
Okay, so, but that explains why at 8 years old, you swimming would be a great swimmer. You've got that in your blood, like an athlete.
Yeah.
But was your dad your coach when you were young?
No. So I started off at just a local club. The coach that I had, she was amazing. Like she was the first one I ever talked to. So growing up, no one would ever pick this now, but I never said a word. I was so shy. I wouldn't speak to anybody. I say that people are like, but no, literally you just speak to any of my teachers growing up or my family. And like, it was my teacher's like goal to make me speak, and I would never say a word.
What changed?
The Lord. Probably, most likely.
What, so it's just in the recent, in the
last like 5-6 years, I've actually like come out of my shell. Like I started talking a little bit more at school, like when I got older, because I was like, you kind of have to make friends. But
kind of got to talk.
Pretty much like I was pretty reserved. Like I would only speak to specific people, like just my friends. And now I'm like, anyone who has ears, I'll talk. Like,
Are you fluent in Italian?
no, I used to speak it a lot more. So my cousins used to live in Australia. And then, we pretty much used to all just speak it because we picked it up. And then once they left, I didn't speak it as much. But I used to be fluent in German because I did German at school. And I used to speak to my Oma in German. And then the older she got, it was harder for, like, she's got broken English German, so she'll kind of speak both, and then a bit of Polish here and there. So it's like, what are you speaking? And I just kind of like after school, I didn't speak it as much. So I understand it sort of.
Yeah.
But I'm not fluent. I'm trying, but.
I was going to say, like, if we just dropped you in Italy, within like a couple months, you'd be pretty fluent again.
Oh,
right? Yeah. Same with German.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Man, that's really cool.
It's really cool.
Do you know Jasmine Campisi?
Yes.
Have you guys spent any time together?
Not much.
I feel like you two could be like undercover best friends. You know, comes from like full Italian. Similar. We were having this totally different conversation, but very similar about the upbringing. Like we just had my family. We didn't go like even all her cousins were in the same school with her.
Yeah.
So it was
it's pretty much like very family oriented,
I
especially
like
because we
that.
grew up Dad grew up in Sicily, and in Sicily, like everyone knows everyone. Like if my sister recently just went and visited family in Italy, so this is her first overseas trip ever, and she went to Sicily, and the moment she touched down and walked out, people looked at her like, okay, who is that? And where'd she come from? But they knew it was my dad's daughter, so they were very like, respect her, because my dad's a little bit high up there, and my family is a bit high up there, but they know you. I mean, if you're
a little bit high up there. Some mafia connections. Yeah, we'll let it.
I won't comment. But yeah, so they're very, very tight knit. So growing up there, it's all family. Everyone knows everyone. So that's just the way like the family
How many
is.
people live there in Sicily? Is it like
There's quite a few. It's a pretty big island, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But it's quite a few. In our little house, in the little houses and stuff, because it's all apartments. But when like people pass away and, you know, you don't sell houses there. Once it's in the family, it's in the family.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
it's all like little apartments and stuff. It's very like squishy, but not, if that makes sense. But so my dad's house, he's got like 6 apartments in his big block. And then his mum, so my nonna, she passed away quite a while ago, but she has, I think it's another 6, and then we've got a cafe, and then we've got a farm as well. So we've got all these.
It would be so good to
places.
visit.
I know. I'm so
Should scrap the New Zealand trip and just go to.
Well, I'm
Italy.
going next year. My whole family, we're all going next year.
Oh,
so-
there's heaps of people in Sicily.
Yeah.
There's millions. Well, it's probably less after COVID.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Did you know? On that note, did you like lose family during COVID? Because they said Italy was like the worst hit.
Not
place.
during COVID. My auntie, which we only like recently found out, she's just very unwell. But apart from that, no. Like we lost Nonna in 2011. So that was my dad's mum.
How old was she?
I think she was in her 80s. But she had heart issues. So she had a bypass, a double bypass, a triple bypass, and then she passed away. Yeah, she's crazy. She went through a lot, and she was just like, oh, it's fine. And I was like,
She probably would have been better just when you get to that age. I'm like,
it's
man,
hard,
why bother with all the hospital stuff? I mean, I get it. I'm like, man, why not just in?
It was hard, but it was funny. Well, it wasn't funny, but I remember swimming at the time. That night, I was 12 years old. I remember this so vividly. I was 12 years old, and we just got back from state championships, and I just come second in my 100 breast, which for me, like that's it. I'm done. This is all over for me.
Oh, coming second
was horrible for me. I meant to win. I was meant to win it all the time.
Breaststroke is your best.
Is my best stroke, yeah. And I'm like .01. I missed out on the wall, which it's still a second, which is fine, and it's not the major Compass Nationals, but. Man, I was devastated. I was like, I'm second. Like, this is trash. I hate the sport. I can't do this. It was so bad.
Throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Literally, it was so bad. And then I remember coming home, and then Dad got a call from Sicily. And like when he gets a call from Sicily, it's usually bad news because it wasn't around birthdays or anything. So, and then I remember like he got the phone call that his mum had passed away, and he didn't cry. I was beyond a joke. Like I was gone. I was so upset. But I didn't see him cry. It was crazy. But they told us that when she passed away, so when she used to live in Australia with us, one night they went out for dinner and she was cold. So Dad gave her his leather jacket. And when she passed away, she was holding that. She was gripping it, and she had a photo of our family in the pocket that she was holding on to. And it's like she always wanted to come back and be with us. But she could never come back because she's got like she has her like little family up there and she's got a house and all that sort of stuff. So she could never come back. But she just wanted to be with all of us. And I was like, man, that's so sad.
But you guys are going next year.
Next year, yeah, very long awaited. Like Dad hasn't been back since before I was born.
Keep an eye on him. That's where he's going to cry.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
He's
has
very
he?
excited.
Oh, he would have gone back for the. Oh, really?
No. They very, very rough kind of family things going on. And I don't know too much, but they ended up they actually cremated her when she didn't want to be. They didn't tell Dad about it. They only told him about it after it had happened. And they sold her belongings. Not that they can't sell the house because now it's Dad's because it just goes down the family line. But they threatened to take it all away because he hadn't visited in so long and all this. They did it all without him knowing. So he was pretty devastated. And since then he's like, I've got to go back. I've got to go home. I've got to go home.
Yeah,
But
of course.
he ended up becoming a swim coach later down the line when I was like 13 or 14 and became my swim coach. So he kind of can't just leave the club. And it's just been so hard to just get there. Plus we've got our house back home. He's doing renovations. Orma as well. So Mum's mum. She's still around. She's 93. She turns 94 this year.
Whoa.
She's kicking.
Whoa.
She's definitely kicking. She's got no filter. She's got no filter anymore. So
Zero.
no, she will just say whatever's on her mind. And I'm like, okay.
As a
You can't
memory
do
and
that these
stuff,
days.
all good.
It's hit and miss.
Can't do that these days.
It's very hit and
What
miss.
is that? Well, look, just keep walking. Keep walking.
There's so many, oh my gosh, so many times I just look at her and I'm like, you would be in jail right now.
Yeah,
If you weren't
yeah.
in your house, you
Yeah,
would
yeah.
go to jail.
Oh, wait till
Oh
the
my.
hate speech and all that stuff.
Oh,
She'd
she's
be-
number one. She's
she'd-
number one.
She's number one most wanted. Anyway,
My
moving
mum
on.
jokes like, she's Hitler's favorite. I was like, oh yeah, we can see that.
Oh wow,
She's crazy.
Oh, she would
Well,
have been.
so she backtrack. She grew up in Germany. So, she was born in Poland but lived in Germany through the whole war. So she was there when Hitler was around. She fled Germany on the boat here to Australia, then went back and then came back. So she's been through the whole thing.
Oh, she
The
would be.
whole thing, yeah.
How's her mind? Is she good to hold conversation with, or is she?
Yeah,
So she's still
she's-
sharp as.
I mean, she's dwindling off quite a bit, but her memory of growing up is very vivid. But now that growing like now times, she's not very smart. So she knows, like, I could tell her something and she'll completely forget about it.
Yeah, okay.
But she can relive every single moment from back then.
Does she know the Lord?
Roman Catholic. So Nonna and Orma both, and this is where God kind of started in my life, is when I was born. I
nice.
spent a lot of time with Orma and Nonna. So Mum and Dad had a pizza shop, as you do as Italians. You have a pizza shop called Papa Giuseppe's in North Melbourne. That's just, it just happens. And they had that. So I was born, and then Nonna and Orma used to look after me when Mum and Dad went to run the shop. And so I spent so much time with them, a lot more with them than my sister did. My sister, I don't know, she just, when she was a baby, did not like them. And I loved it. I was always with Orma, always with Nonna. Like, I'd stay with them all the time. I'd rather be there at my own house. I'm like, I love them. But Orma used to pray over me. So did Nonna, like,
Really?
and like Catholic, like in a Catholic sense. But they had like the holy water all the time. And whenever I'd walk into either of their houses, I'd do the holy water. Like, as a kid growing up, my whole life, they'd pray over me. I've always had a Holy Mary by my bed because Orma used to always pray to the Holy Mary whenever I'd go and do something or I needed something. You know, pray to Saint Christopher, I think it is, about when you lose something and you gotta find it. I think it's Christopher. I don't know. I forget.
I'm not
But,
sure either. But
Yeah. And it's been in my whole life. God has been in my life since the beginning. And I didn't realize that until like I actually started, even when I did my testimony the other night at the youth night, I was like, I only realized it then. I was like, why was it so easy for me to come and find the Lord? I'm like, because he's been here this whole time. And that's why I'm so, like, my Nonna, losing her was so hard. And like Orma, every time like I get a call from my mum, I'm like, is she okay?
Oh,
Like,
wow.
because I love my Alma so much. Like, oh, it could bring me to like being away from her is really, really hard. Being away from the family is hard, but being away from Alma and not seeing her in these last stages of her life are so hard. And like I knew going into internship, I had to give that up because it was my goal to go down at least once every fortnight and to just spend the weekend
really?
there. Just spend the weekend and then fly back and work Monday to Friday, fly down Friday night, come back Sunday night and work. And I was just going to do that pretty much the whole year because I know that we're coming to the end. And I noticed when I went down, so from the start of the year, I went down, then I went down in March and I just came back and I can just see the huge decline.
Yeah.
And it sucks not being able to be there, but I know it's like, it's old age. I can't stop anything. It's not like she's, younger and is just unwell, but no, she's getting old. Yeah. And she's had a huge life. Like, man, most of the people she grew up with are gone because the war does heavy things.
But even just that age as well,
And,
like at that age, everyone's dying. It must be
it's hard.
even for her, it could be a horrible thing. Just keep praying for her.
Yeah. But that's how God kind of started with my life growing up, just being prayed for.
Yeah. So that's a really great point. I'm glad you shared that. Let's work our way to like where he became real for you. But getting a bit more of a background. So you swam competitively until you were how old?
21, I think it was.
And how old are you this year?
I'm turning 25.
Wow, so you haven't been...
I haven't been out for too long.
Not swimming for as long as you swam.
Yeah.
What was your greatest achievement in swimming?
I made the Australian junior swim team. So from the ages of 12 to 19, I was head at top of my age group in the 200 and 100 breast. So I was like just winning nationals all the time. Like that was whatever. Like that, for most people, they're like, oh my gosh, I made nationals. I was like, I just came first. Like, I don't really care. Like that was just the thing.
Have you got all the trophies and stuff?
Yeah, I've got all my medals. I've got all the trophies and all that sort of stuff, which is really cool looking back on it.
Is hectic.
Yeah.
Like, so for you, your fitness level would be mental, what most people would never imagine.
Yeah.
People that swimming, like, you can go and swim a few Ks, and when you hop out of the pool,
it's rough.
Yeah, it is exhausting. Like the energy that swimming uses is like nothing else.
Unbelievable.
Has it transferred into anything else? Do you do any like running or anything?
I just go to the gym a lot. I love the gym. I find myself like cardio is my favorite thing ever. Like I could be on the stairs for hours and I just love it. I will not run. I used to love running, but from swimming, I got shin splints. I like tore the adductors and all that sort of stuff being a swimmer. So it's very hard for me to run without getting seriously injured and like hurting myself a lot.
It's the benefit of the pool, eh? It's so good.
Yeah.
I used to go and I did a little bit of squad when I was a kid. And so like I love swimming. If there's a pool near me and like I have the time, I'll love to go do like a K in the pool. Yeah. But I'll do like a kilometre in the pool. And I hop out and I have something to eat and I could sleep for like 4 hours. I'm wrecked.
It's hard.
But for people that swam at your level, how much you'd do like how many Ks in the morning?
So on an average week, we'd average 80 to 90 kilometers in the pool. That's without like our gym and all that sort of stuff. So Monday morning, Monday night, Tuesday morning, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, double Thursday, Friday morning, Saturday morning, plus gym, plus cycle session. So on a normal session, I'd average like 7 to 8 kilometers.
And you're doing that from week in, week out from like 13 to 21, 22.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just got progressively more. So I started off probably averaging 60 to 70.
Yeah.
And then we just go up and up and up. And like I was not blessed. I had to be able to perform at a competition. I literally had to do a main set before. My body loves that hard work, the grit. So if I did like a short and sharp warm up, I would race like terribly. But I did a huge warm up. I actually gassed myself and I would like pull an Olympic qualifier.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like unbelievable. But I was like, damn,
that's your
that's
your design.
just the way it worked for me.
So no Olympic qualifying?
Almost.
Oh,
and that's what everyone says. They're like, oh yeah. I was like, oh yeah. Like, yeah, you almost made it. I was like, Yeah, I almost made it. I didn't make it.
Yeah.
I almost did. And it used to affect me. People say, well, yeah, well, you almost. And then I feel like, oh, I'm a failure. I'm like, no, I don't really care. I'm like, I did what I did. Like, it doesn't bother me anymore. It's so fine.
Yeah,
but
it's the top what percent in the world, you know?
that can actually say that they've done it.
Yeah, and then even like Dan Smith.
Yeah.
Like he made it and then had I can't remember, did he have a bad swim or?
Yeah, I think it was in the relay.
And then it's like 4 years gone,
Yeah.
whole life.
Yeah,
like,
it's
like
crazy. Like, honestly.
Competing so hectic.
Oh, and I ended up falling out of love, and that's why I ended up stepping away from the sport. Is I fell out of love with the racing side of it. I just love training and being an Olympic squad because I moved up here to swim. Being an Olympic squad, you can't just train for the sake of training. You've got to compete, and swimming is quite the toxic sport. Like it's very, very toxic, and so like. There's a lot of bickering. There's a lot of talking behind your back about. So it's like I was like, as much as I love the training, I'm like, I'm not sacrificing that. So then I just got out of that, and I went literally straight into the gym, and I just started training at the gym. And I was like, this is everything. Like this is so fine for me.
This is a bit easier.
I love it. This is definitely a lot easier, but a different kind of training, which is fine. But I would much love to get back into the pool. It's just too cold.
Yeah.
Now I'm not used to it, so I'm like, nah.
Yeah, on days like today.
Yeah.
You'd be a beast still. So you've got this influence, really strong family growing up, strong family influence. Both your grandmothers who you adore are quite religious, have a really strong religious background.
Yeah.
Where's Jesus enter into your life and how?
Yeah, so growing up, because I grew up Catholic, so we do the usual, obviously you have your christening when you're born, and then we do the Holy Communion thing. So you start with your classes, and then you do your Holy Communion, and then your confirmation. So that's what you do in Catholicism. You just like submit yourself to the church and the Pope, really. That's what it is. You don't talk to God. You can't do that. You have to talk to the Pope, or you have to talk to the priest, and he'll talk to God for you. So that's the basis of like the whole Catholic Church. And for me, so my sister and I both did it. For me, I wanted it. I wanted to know more. And I was like, I know, like, without knowing anything, I was like, I know God is the way. I really love God. Without like knowing the depths of it, I was just like, man, I love this. What's about it? Now, church services in a Catholic church, don't put me through that ever again. I mean, like, I get it. I really get it. But
do you?
No. But you go in and, I mean, and if people enjoy it, go. But you just sit there and it's like monotone, and the worship is just hymns, which is it's still you're worshiping
beautiful.
and you're praising.
Yeah.
But just standing here and seeing like, I'm like,
don't raise your voice.
Don't lift
raise
your
your hands.
Do not lift your hands.
Shucks.
And if you're not dressed really well, because obviously Catholicism, brought up from the Roman Catholics. So in Italy, when you go to church, you dress up like you're going to a fancy like outing. So if you're not dressed properly, you get the eyes from the older people like, oh my gosh, we had to dress in these fancy little dresses all the time. And I was like, I don't care. I just want to be there. I really enjoyed being there. My sister didn't enjoy it as much, and she didn't get, I mean, growing up, she didn't spend as much time with Oma and Nonna. And I don't know, I don't feel like she got prayed over as much as I did, and I loved it, so I wanted more, whether she's very out of it. So she hated going to church, and I loved it when she was there because we would have fun, and they were talking, and as kids we don't really understand, so we were just playing around, and they didn't have things for kids back then, so we were just like playing around. And I remember this Easter one, because we have candles, we almost lit someone's pants on fire. And we just could not stop. Like, we still joke about it today. It was so funny.
In the service when you're supposed to be quiet.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It was so funny. Mum's like, oh, my gosh. And then, because they used to put the giving things around, it's like the things come around, you have to give. And we would stress that. We were like, Mum, give us, like, we'd put 20 cents in or something, because we were so scared not to give, because they look at you real weird. If you don't put anything in there, like, oh. It's so bad. It's so bad.
It's totally different to what we're used to.
Totally different. But I used to just love it. And then I did my confirmation and everything, and Oma gave me this little bracelet which had like the Holy Mary and Jesus and the cross on it. And I still have that in my little jewelry box to this day. It was my favorite thing ever. I wore it everywhere. I was like, Mom, buy me a cross. Buy me something. I want this. But then like just go. And then from that, I was very thankful because I think God was just in my life. Like whenever I had friends and they would go out, I did not enjoy. I would not go. I was like, I actually just want to be home. Like, I don't enjoy going out. I don't enjoy doing like inviting me to parties, so much so that they just stopped inviting me because I would just never go. I was like, I don't really want to go to that. And I never got mixed up with any of that sort of stuff. I was literally like just this innocent little girl just finding a way in the world, swimming, studying. I graduated with what you would call here an OP1 when I finished VCE. So we had ATAR back then, but the translation would be OP1. And I just stuck my head in books. I just loved it. And I had friends at school, but I was just like, okay, hang out like between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and then I'm going home because I don't really want to be out of my house. Like I really love family. I really love spending time with my sister. We just grew up together and she was like my best friend growing up. So we're like very, very, very close.
Did she stay away from that scene as well?
Pretty much most of the time, yeah. She had a lot more friends than I did. And she let me know.
What did you guys do as like family stuff? Was home super fun? Like you guys did cook together, like play games
we would cook. Like Dad taught me how to cook a lot. So I love cooking. Being around Mum cooking. We had dogs growing up, so we'd take the dogs for a walk. We'd go to the park. My sister and I used to, before I got my license, we used to just like take the train places. We'd go like traveling. We'd go to the city and be like, okay, let's go here today. Let's go here today. So we'd do like all those little things, which I am so thankful. Like that is the best.
It sounds like, your family kept you, you know?
Yeah.
The value, you had a really lovely family growing up, which is nice.
So my sister had heaps of friends. And so they all went out. So she just went with them. She never partook in any of like whatever they did, but she just spent a lot of time out with them. Whereas I was just very like, that's just not my scene. I don't really like it at all. Like regardless of who my friends are going, I'm like, that is just not my vibe. And then I was getting to the later stages of coaching, training, and I started like really making. So I made a Singapore team. I made this, and my dad took me up here when he was my coach, and I spent 4 weeks up here with the squad at Griffith Uni with Michael Bowl. And I was like, I want to live here. And like for me, moving away from family was like a no. Yeah. I don't ever want to do that. And no one in my family, they were like, oh, Katia will move away. That's my sister's name. She will move away, but Paris won't. And I was the one who moved, and everyone's like, whoa, why? And then it started the backlash of people in my mom and dad's ears, like, oh, she's rebelling against you because you were too strict on her. And people were in my parents' ears. I'm like, I just really want to live on the Gold Coast. Like, this is cool. But little did I know it was God calling me to the Gold Coast. But I didn't know it at that point. So I knew there was something more, but I just didn't know. Like, I was just stuck in a little bit of the world, like just finding my worth in a bit of swimming, like being the swimmer, like that's me. I am a swimmer. That's who I am. If I don't swim, I'm nobody kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. You train your whole life for it. It's what you do.
And that's how everyone knew me. Like growing up, I was bullied majority of my childhood. But when it came to the swimming carnivals, everyone loved me. But then they dropped me after that and move on because that was it. Like, and I was like, I used to eat a lot because, you're training and everyone used to bully me for that. And then all that sort of stuff. So I
always would have been shredded and skinny.
Yeah. I was a bit chubby, but like also I just trained all the time. So it was very like
chubby.
I had a little bit more muscle, but I was just still growing up. So it was, but I just got bullied my whole childhood. So much so like I had to go to counselors and stuff. Like it got really, really, really bad.
People are savage, eh?
They're shocking.
People are savage.
I ended up being like quite, as much as like I'd love to be alone, like I did see friends, but I'd love to be alone. I actually spent majority of my school years in the library, Like I'd go to my classes and then at recess time, I'd be in the library because had no friends. And then I'd go to class and then I'd go back to the library at lunch and spend the hour lunchtime just reading a book or just sitting there. Like I had no friend and I was too scared. And that's kind of what made me really scared to talk to people because I was like, oh, you're just going to like attack me for something. So I don't really want to be around that.
Oh,
and so all that kind of happened. And I knew there was something more. And I was, during that time, I was just like, okay, what's God? What is, and I only ever knew Catholic. So I didn't know. And I was like, I grew up Catholic. I have to be Catholic. I've got to do it. Like I can't search all this sort of stuff.
So when you were up here, did you go to a Catholic church? Or?
I did. So
On your own?
yeah. So I moved up in August. So this is crazy. I moved up on the 16th of August, 2019, I moved here. So my mum and I drove up from Melbourne in my little Suzuki Swift, as you do. And it was blue too. So I was the full, like, typical high school girl. And we drove up, the worst drive of my life.
It's a big drive.
It was huge,
Is
17
it auto?
hours. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
auto.
good.
My mum did most of the drive until the nighttime because she can't see it in the dark. And so we stopped at Taree and but my car was full of all my clothes and all my stuff. And I was just like sleeping like this. And I was like, I can't sleep.
Sleeping in the car?
Yeah, sleeping in the car.
Why didn't you guys get a hotel?
I don't know. We just didn't. We're like, no, we'll just do
We're
it.
Italian. We're saving the money.
Pretty much. We went to a server and then mum was like in the passenger seat and she was sleeping fine with a blanket. And I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, dude,
And
Suzuki Swift.
I was like in and out of sleep and I was like, Mom, I'm driving. And I was like almost falling asleep, but I'm like, I can't. I'm so cold. It was like -3 degrees at that point because it was in August. And I was like,
in
this
the car, you're not going to
sucks.
have the car running to keep
yeah.
you warm. Oh,
And I was like,
man.
oh my gosh. Anyway, we finally made it to the Gold Coast. And then mum flew back home after that. And so I was training for a while. And then it got to a point where like I was just like searching in the wrong places, like in people, like just trying to find who I was, trying to be someone I wasn't. Like everyone else had all this stuff. So I was like, oh, I've got to be like them. I've got to be like that. I've got to do this. I've got to go out. I've got to find friends. I've got to be a part of whatever this world thing is. Like they're doing something. Why, I've got to be a part of it. And I wouldn't say like I got too lost. Like I didn't partake in anything, but I just like found random friends and just hung out and, just did dumb things. And I ended up because I used to live in Surfers. And so I used to just walk the beach all the time. Anyway, I met some friends swimming and it was one night. Oh, actually, it was the week before. I was struggling and I was like, you know what? I need God. I think it's God. I think I just need him out of nowhere. Anyway, so I was like, okay. And I searched it up. I was like, well, I'm Catholic. I have to go to a Catholic church. Anyway, so I found a St. Vincent's church is in Surfers and it was like literally a walk down the place. I was like, St. Vincent's. Oh, I was actually like born there. So
That makes
I've got to
sense.
go
Is that
here.
the one that's opposite Surf City, Presence?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know the one.
It's so funny. I met someone like at Brave Love with circuit riders who actually goes to Surf City. I was like, man, I should have gone there.
Yeah.
But so I walked in and I was like, okay. I had to dress I was like, I got to dress nice. And I'm like, okay. So I walked in and I just remember I walked in and I saw there's like 3 women, older women in the corner with their Bibles just praying. But like, to me, I was like, this is a cult. Like I was so scared. I was scared. I was like, this is really scary. Like they were monotone and they were just staring with their Bibles open. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? This is so random. And I was like, whatever. And I just walked straight to the front and I sat down and I just waited. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this.
Is this during like a mass or just during the day you just went in?
During a mass. So the mass was about to start and I always get there early. So I saw that and I was like, oh heck. And I was sitting in there and I remember I actually went back because but as I was writing my testimony a while ago, I actually posted an Instagram story back then. It was a photo of the church and it had like an Ephesians scripture, which I'd never read Ephesians in my life, but it sounded good to me. So I was like, I can't remember which one it was, but I was like, okay. And I remember that. And then I think I sat through the whole thing and I was just like, and then I just like bolted it. I was like, okay, maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's not for me.
That's not what I was looking for.
But even then, like after that Sunday, I was like, okay, I got to find something. There's something. Anyway, and I knew Dan Smith, Josh Parrish, Mo, and all that sort of stuff. And I knew they went to this thing called Gold Coast Chapel. And I was like, where is it? Do I have to drive somewhere? Because I didn't really drive my car much. I usually just took the tram because I didn't want to pay for fuel.
No,
Italian.
Smart.
So I was like, okay, where is it? I don't know. And then I kind of figured out where it was. That's when we were at Broad Beach State School. And I was like, okay, I'll go eventually. And I actually messaged Dan, I think it was on that Wednesday, and I was like, hi, Dan, you don't know me, but I see, like, you know, you're smart. And, like, I think we sort of knew each other, but not really. And I was like, oh, like, I see you go to church. Like, where is it? Anyway, he didn't really respond. He responded, but it was like a little while later, and I just didn't really think anything of it. I was just training and doing whatever. It came to the Saturday night, so the day before a Sunday, and what was September? This is in October.
October
2019. So I got to the Gold Coast in August. 2 months later was October, and it was a Saturday night, and I just could not sleep. So this is after obviously Sunday happened when I went to the Catholic church. Then I messaged Dan, and I I couldn't sleep, and all my friends were out. They were coming down, so they were in Brisbane, and they came down surface. They're like, oh, you should come out to the clubs with us. And I was like, I don't do that. I don't really like that, man. Like, oh, you should just try it. I was like, I don't want to. Like, it doesn't interest me whatsoever. I'm like, I don't drink alcohol. I don't do any of that. People congregated real close. No. Like, no. Like, I don't like that. And okay, whatever. And I just couldn't sleep. Anyway, it got to 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was just like laying there. I don't even know. I was like writing. I like to journal. I like to write. I like to read books. And then I get a text. They're like, oh, you still awake? I was like, yeah, I'm still awake. They're like, well, we're going to Macca's. Do you want to come? I was like, yeah, I'll come. I was like, okay, I've got something to do. So I went down, and we all just went there, and I got a little soft serve, and we walked down to the beach, and we just sat there. And the thought in my mind, I was like, I'd been going through real rough. Like, I was at the point where I was like, there is nothing left for me. Even though I messaged Dan and I went to church, and I was like, what is God? Like, because what is that? What was that? Like, I didn't feel anything. So I was like, I don't really know what this is. And with everything I'd been struggling with and going through, like, just trying to fit in, probably a bit of depression, anxiety, like all that stuff, being away from my family, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And like, I was like, I just have no way. And we were sitting at the beach, and I was like, I'm going for a swim at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so I did. I just walked out. I finished my ice cream first, and then I went out.
Good.
And I went for a little swim. They're like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm just going for a swim. And like, I was swimming out, and as a swimmer, it's incredibly hard to drown. But I was like, man, like, you just can't. I mean, like, it's
true.
hard. And I was just swimming out, and I was like, okay, well, I can't do this myself, so there's going to be a shark. Something's going to happen. Like, I just want.
Oh,
just take
you
me
actually
away.
thinking like that?
I was like, yeah, I just take me away. Just do something. Like, I don't want to. I don't want this anymore. Like, I can't find anything. Anyway, I was just floating there for hours, and I was like, this sucks. Like, I'm just here. Okay. And one of them ended up pulling me back in. They're like, all right, we're going home. You better come, because we're not going to be here to watch you if you just float away. I was like, I don't care. But I was like, okay. Anyway, they end up going home, and I just walked back to my apartment. And this was about 4 o'clock, maybe 5 o'clock in the morning. And I got in. I was like, fine, okay. And then I showered, and I laid in bed. I was like, I'll just go to bed. Could not sleep. I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? Anyway, so I just like made breakfast. I made a coffee, and I ended up just putting on some like nice clothes, and I just started walking. And it got to like maybe at this point it's maybe 7:30, and I was walking down like to the Broad Beach way, because I was like, I'll just get a coffee down at Elk. And all of a sudden I come up to the state school, and I saw the flag, and I was like, I know that place. I was like, let me just walk in. And I walked through the doors, and through the opening gate, and then obviously the doors, and there's that little walkway through to the like assembly area. And at the time I didn't know who it was, but Tapa was in front of me. I was walking real quiet, because I was like, I'm new here. I don't know these people. I don't want anyone to see me. I just want in and out, just so I can dip my toe in. And she was quite a few steps in front of me. I don't know, she turned around, and she was like, oh, you're new here. I was like, yeah, I am. She's like, oh, come meet my family. I was like, oh my goodness. this? What is this? Anyway, so I met the whole
Stitch up
Ubu
straight
family. I
away.
met Maddie and like all the two towers and all that. And I was like, okay, this is new. Anyway, so I sat with them. Anyway, then I saw Dan and Josh and Mo walk in. So I was like, oh, I know them. So I went and sat with them. I was like, hi. And immediately then I sat through the whole service, the worship. And it was in the worship where I just sobbed. And I was like, this is home. In my head, I was like, this is home. This is what I've been searching for. So that was on Sunday, the 4th of October, 2019. On Thursday, the 8th of October, I gave my life to Christ at Alfred's apartments with Dan and Josh.
Man, were they surprised when they saw you? They're like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, they're like, oh, we didn't think you'd actually come, because there's so many people who probably tell them, oh yeah, we'll come, don't come. And I was there. And then I think he gave Dan, no. I said to them, I think I messaged them, because we had worship Sunday night as well, so I came to that. And then it was like Tuesday, and I think because we had a little group chat, I was like, hey, Dan, Josh, I want to give my life to Christ. They're like, oh, what? I was like, yeah, like as soon as possible. Like, I want this. I want this so bad.
God's like, it's already happened.
I just knew it. And then, so Thursday that happened, and they gave me a Bible, which it was just the Passion Translation, but it was really good to just get into it. And then I was like, how do I read this? Like, and he's like, just start at Matthew and just work your way through. He's like, just read like a little bit and just see how you go. And he checks in with me 2 days later. He's like, oh, how are you going? I'm like, oh, well, I finished Matthew. I moved on because I was like, I want to know everything.
you're a reader
I love
as well.
this guy. Yeah. I'm like, I love this Jesus man. Like, he's cool.
That's so
And
good.
from then it just went on. And I was like, this is home. This is life. Like, this is what life is meant to be. But for me, coming to him was so easy because he's had his hand on my life because of my grandmothers, because of growing up, because I've always wanted more. And I think the week before when I walked into the Catholic Church, I was like, I want this. He used that.
Yeah.
And then brought me home to Gold Coast Chapel, which is home now, is family. There's like, when I said that to my parents, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I found a family. They're like, we're a family. Don't ever say that again. And I was like, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
But
no, not
yeah.
like that. An addition to our family.
Yeah. And so,
Oi, I don't want you getting in trouble because we've got so what we're going to do is we're going to pause here. We're going to do Paris part 1.
Ooh,
and then because I feel like we just got to the testimony at the end, and I know, because I know you, getting to know you, there's good stuff that we can share. So let's like rerun this in a couple of weeks, and so this can be Paris part 1, and then the next week after we can do a Paris part 2. So yeah, awesome. Let's cut here and and then let you get to internship so you don't get in trouble. True, and we'll rerun this in a couple of weeks. But thank you for part 1.
Thank you.
Awesome story, and it's actually amazing.
Thank
it's actually really amazing, and your family's amazing. I love the sound
really
of your family.
Hopefully they come soon. Hopefully they watch this.
Yeah, they will. And then I got to get to know your dad and let him know we're looking after you.
Yes.
While you're up here.
Yeah. Hopefully he'll be up soon.
Sounds good. Well, have a great day. Thanks for joining us, Paris.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.